In college, earlier what were you doing? You were managing your studies your way, your style, your schedules. And in corporate alignment, the organization's goals, the overall goal of the organization, overall deadlines, they make a lot of important piece. Again, we follow it in something called as a time management quadrant. you know the activities can keep moving here and there, but majorly, mota mota, what you need to think is, there are few things which are to do, there are few things to decide, there are few things which you delegate, and few things need to be deleted.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of our series, Unlocking Corporate Success with Ms. Davinder Kaur, wherein we discuss some common challenges that the recent graduates face and seek to provide you with a solution. I am your host, Anvesha, a volunteer at Anon. Joining me today is Ms. Davinder Kaur, a spiritual podcaster with an entrepreneurial spirit. Welcome, ma'am. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much, Anvesha. And I'm, as usual, perfect. And thanks for inviting. This is absolutely my pleasure to give this 2 cents for this upcoming generation. So let's go ahead.
It is our pleasure to host you and get these insights from you. So thank you so much for joining us today. So I feel like today's topic it is very commonly talked about. Okay, and but I feel like इसके बारे में जितनी discussion करी जाए उतनी कम है क्योंकि it's a never ending problem. So let me tell the viewers that the topic for discussion today is mastering time management. So before we start with the podcast, I remember you telling me off screen that you recently hosted a seminar for the same. So how did it go?
Absolutely brilliant. Yes, it was so, so close to my heart as we conducted this particular workshop for special kids who had completed their studies and now were moving towards working life. And again, we discussed on time management and how it really helps in defining your working style, rather, because everyone is very different. So giving a very set standard to somebody is not sensible. So it's you and depends on you how you want to manage your time. So it was pretty good.
So, what are the key time management challenges that students face when they're particularly transitioning from this unstructured to a structured corporate life?
Absolutely. Specifically, if I say college life and the corporate life, they are very, very different. And this is where all students face challenges in keeping up their style of working with the time management specifically, because it is a very, very crucial part as far as deliverables are concerned now in corporate life. In college, earlier what were you doing? You were managing your studies your way, your style, your schedules. And in corporate alignment, the organization's goals, the overall goal of the organization, overall deadlines, they make a lot of important piece. They become very, very crucial at times. So there are very specific office timings also needs to be taken care of, which college students, if I feel, are little lethargic towards really following a particular schedule. So student may find it very, very attractive initially, but over a period of time, making sure that you are there 9 to 6, kind of a monotonous for them. So a lot needs to be worked when you are entering this life.
I completely agree with one particular term that you use for this monotonous because I feel like when you transition from school to college, you get the freedom that take as many classes you want. You can walk out of classes in between. So I do feel like it gets very difficult. Like I also don't take all my classes, to be very honest with you. So also you used one term here, deliverables, and that is something like I'm a part of societies, right? So that is something we use. So could you please explain to our viewers what deliverables are?
Depending on which kind of an organization you're with, what kind of a work profile you are in. So if I'm saying deliverable, there's something called as key responsibility areas or key performance indexes or indicators which are designed and defined for your work profile. So what happens, you are given a job profile and this is expected from me. So if you are able to deliver or do something better, your organization keep recognizing you. Yes, this is the excellent employee I have. If you're not able to do it, then it becomes over a period of time even challenging to continue with that job. So those KRAs and KPIs, specifically these terms, are being used within organizations which become your responsibilities or deliverables by you. So those are the pieces.
If I talk about the college life, you're juggling your studies, as you mentioned, your studies, your co-curriculars, and internships if you're doing any. So I feel like if a person, जैसे मैं हूँ, अगर मैंने अपनी priority sort कर लिया that let's say I have to keep Anna on at top, then my college, then my personal stuff, and then any other things that I have left. So I feel like the time, time management unknowingly उसी हिसाब से हो जाती है. Like I'll give Anon more time, I'll give my studies lesser time, and something that comes below that even lesser time. So what do you feel like? Does prioritization define how much time you give to any activity or task?
Absolutely. So, as you already have communicated this in your question itself, prioritizing is important. So, let's say you have two 10 things, and you have already done the alignment for yourself. But in corporate life, what happens? You are working on something and you have already designed something out, but there is some emergency, something falls on your lap that needs to be taken care of right now itself. So all your plannings, all your scheduling, what you thought for yourself just goes for a toss. So how do you handle that particular piece? Is there are again we follow it in something called as a time management quadrant. You know, the activities can keep moving here and there, but majorly, mota mota, what you need to think is there are few things which are to do, there are few things to decide, there are few things which you delegate, and few things need to be deleted. So you create your quadrant accordingly as per your activities and priorities which is falling in place. Let's say you'll have to really reduce down your urgencies, मतलब जो आगे पता है कि कल को एकदम से सिर पे आके गिरेगा ही गिरेगा, why you are creating a situation कि वो कल तक की situation पर जाए. Just cover it up and close so that it doesn't spoil your routine. और जो पीसेस बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हैं बट बहुत अर्जेंट नहीं है, उनको अर्जेंट क्रिएट मत करो, उनको पहले ध्यान दो. कुछ चीजें हैं जो आप किसी को दे सकते हो एज अ डेलीगेशन, कुछ चीजें हैं जो आप बिल्कुल पूरी तरह से हटा सकते हो, डिलीट कर सकते हो अपनी लाइफ से. सो यू हैव टू रियली प्रायोरिटाइज अकॉर्डिंगली. सो देर आर थिंग्स विच यू नीड टू मैनेज अकॉर्डिंग टू टाइम.
I feel like it's a very difficult for teens of my years to set boundaries in a calmer way. It's like they'll be either very aggressive about it or they wouldn't care about it, right? So when we go to a corporate, a lot of managers, they tend to give you more work than you can do, right? They give you a bite more than you can chew. So I mean, I have personally have faced this multiple times, and जरूरी नहीं होता ना आप हर बार उनको मना कर पाओ. It's either out of respect or out of fear that in terms of your job से निकाल देंगे, right? So how can new graduates effectively prioritize and manage their time efficiently in a corporate environment wherein they particularly have multiple responsibilities?
Absolutely. So what happens? You specifically mentioned new graduates. If I'm saying new graduates, they are supposed to be in a very, very learning mode at this point in time. So definitely have a very lesser hold to say no for any work given. However, when you get into a professional life, you have to define yourself. Yes, these are the things which makes more sense to me. These are something which will divert me to a different direction altogether. So one has to organize themselves first well in play, and the items on your plate needs to be handled well, what you already been given. And keep your managers informed. So sometimes what happens, managers doesn't, if you don't speak out, they don't get to know that you are overloaded, or you are being diverted or directionless or things like that. So if you keep them informed about your progress, how you're doing it, are you really moving in a right direction or not, knowing that managers themselves sometimes either prioritize the request and give you sensibly. In case it is not the case, your manager is not able to understand that particular fact, then use Pareto analysis. And what does it say? Out of your whole list, just find out there will be 20% of the work which will actually impact your results 80% of the time. And 80% of the work will be more of a wasters kind of a scenario. So just prioritize accordingly. Use that 20% of work before get to your 80% of result, so that he is also happy, you're also happy, and rest of the 80% can be managed or avoided or done at a leisure time or easier time when you can, you're not pressurized or something, or something like a, okay, this will be managed, but let me important pieces to be covered first.
So in your answer, you mentioned that sometimes even managers try to understand the employee's POV and they do reduce the amount of workload. So as a follow up, and I need to mention, throwback to the previous episode, do you think that the lack of emotional quotient also plays a role in respecting others' times and boundaries? So, for our listeners who do not know what EQ is, me and our very beautiful Ms. Davinder ma'am engaged in a very nice conversation in a previous episode. So, do tune into that and leave your views about it. So, ma'am, what do you think about this question?
Yes, EQ is extremely important when you're working. It does impact for sure, and you would get best bosses who needs to understand every time. You would always want it that way, but world is not that easy, and it is not that rosy too outside. So having a composed and a clear attitude towards work with the timelines of your work needs to be clear with you. So as I am trying to say here, uh, bosses matter. They impact a lot on your emotional aspects. But if you are clear, what is it expected from me, what am I supposed to do, and how am I supposed to do it, and if you're in a position to make an alignment in that office, do that for sure. If you're not able to make that alignment, I think let's move out from there and work out where it fits best. Job should not be dealt too emotionally, because it sucks your energies too. So instead, do well, whatever the best you can, and remains unaffected from the jobs per se.
So, as you
Emotion
mentioned
should be
that
connected.
we can try to align our bosses, how can one do that? Because I'll be like, I don't think that bosses and managers are the best listeners in the hierarchy. So, how can one tackle that?
You have already made up your mind. It looks no, no.
From experience, I'm just saying this out of
Okay.
sheer experience.
It no, possibly could be an example in hand, or there are 30 to 40%. I would say yes, there are in market. You would find people are managers, but the awareness has gone so high nowadays. People started talking about the differences between managers and leadership roles and all that. They are trying to change, but definitely there are challenges. So uh, people do listen. If you find there is a challenge in particular style of working, you are the personality who works on a project, so you work on yourself first. You find out, am I the one who's comfortable here, who fits here properly, or is it a manager which is a challenge? You cannot take up these issues with HR if the situation is too bad. If it is not comfortable, I think let's swap, change the job or something like that, if it is too bad. But if he is manageable and you love your job, find out a way. It takes little while to identify.
I see.
It's all
Uh,
situational based though.
I feel like it differs personality to personality. As a person like who has worked in a lot of environments wherein they listen as well, I expect other people to listen my views, especially when it comes to my work in the company. But that is not something that I'll always get. So I feel like it goes hand in hand. The manager has to listen and the employee also has to adjust according to the manager.
Absolutely, it has to be together, because mutually only you can reach out a solution. There is no way out otherwise.
That's
And if
completely
it is
true.
not workable, then you move out to a different place possibly.
Exactly. Like I feel like if too many people are facing the same problem, then it's not necessary that the employee is at fault. Then I feel like a larger step that can be taken, but that's a separate topic.
That's an HR, then it's a HR call to really be taken at that
Yeah,
point in.
that's something that's hierarchical based, not related to the employee exactly.
Yeah.
So, as we're talking about prioritization and time management, one of the major factors of time management is procrastination.
Absolutely.
I feel like, as you mentioned, कि 20% काम आपका 80% results ले आता है, right? So how can one do that 20% काम की like बहुत बार होता है subconsciously जो procrastinate करना भी नहीं है, but वो हो जाता है. Like something personal comes on my plate or something professional comes on my plate, right? And when it is faced with larger workloads with a tighter deadline in the corporate world, graduates इसको efficiently tackle कैसे करेंगे? अभी मैं Anon में जैसे काम करती हूँ. My mentors are very chill with like they understand I have my college, I have my studies, but corporates with I'll only have my corporate now. So how do I, you know, inculcate this habit from a younger age?
Exactly. So this is what you have used it very rightly in the end, younger age. So this habits needs to be inculcated when you are right now studying, along with it. Though there are some techniques as I would like to mention here, one can work with. Check your style of working. So there is a possibility you don't like to do what you are doing. That can give you procrastination. Because what happens? I am of a nature who loves to go for a change every minute. You know, something new has come, I'll be excited. I'll immediately start working. Something different again comes up after a day or two. Oh, this is interesting. I'll start working. There are people who do not like too many changes too fast. So they, if you give them a project for 6 months, just let them work on that project. They'll be uh, abundantly beautifully coming out with the beautiful results out of that project. So there are very different style of people, hence they should choose job also accordingly. Very beautiful tip, because people stay unhappy or unsatisfied till the end of their career, they because they misfit and they still continue to work out of fear or whatever the reasons could be. So choose a job which fits in your style, and then you need to accordingly make a change if there is a challenge there. Let's say you are already there, your personality wise, and procrastination still happening. So what you can do is you have to divide your day, as the time management says, either in different blocks. What I do usually, so put your day in a different blocks. If you are a right fit at the job, now is the time to avoid the procrastination by doing a 80/20, as you already earlier I mentioned 80/20 rule. So plot your important pieces accordingly, in different blocks of your time of a day. Activities could keep changing up and down. Keep a 3 hour, 4 hour kind of a block in your hand, and then accordingly you work your activities within that block. Not necessarily 12 means 12 only you will do it. You will be able to do it in the slot of, let's say, 10 to 2. Activities can go up and down here in that block because the number of activities you placed there. So you can just work around with that. And for other procrastination specifically, Parkinson's had given a very good law. It says the amount of time you give yourself to complete a specific task is the amount of time it will take you to complete the task. Let's say एक काम सिर्फ 4 दिन के अंदर कंप्लीट हो सकता है, लेकिन आपने 20 दिन पहले ही अपनी स्लॉटिंग कर दी कि मेरे पास 20 दिन है, इस काम को मैं कर ही लूंगी किसी ना किसी तरीके से। बिलीव यू मी, आप शुरू के 15-16 दिन खराब ही करेंगे, एंड यू वुड फील गिल्टी कि मैं प्रोकेस्टिनेट करती जा रही हूँ। दो, वो 4 दिन का काम है, लास्ट के 4 दिन पे ही जाकर होगा। आपने अपनी स्टडीज के साथ भी ये देखा होगा डेफिनेटली। सो होता क्या है ना, हम जब बहुत ज्यादा टाइम स्लॉट डाल देते हैं ना किसी प्रोजेक्ट को, हम करते लास्ट मिनट पे ही हैं। तो आप बिल्कुल एफिशिएंटली उस टाइम को स्लॉट कीजिए कि आपकी वो एनर्जीज आप लो डाउन कर ही ना पाए। बट हाँ, उतना शॉर्ट भी मत लीजिए कि एंग्जाइटी आ जाए। सो यू नीड टू बी वेरी कॉन्शियस अबाउट हाउ मच ऑफ अ टाइम स्लॉट यू आर पुटिंग अप फॉर योर वर्क। ज्यादा नहीं और कम भी नहीं।
That's true. I would like to pick one thing which is very different from a topic, but like you mentioned, a lot of people are unsatisfied till the very end of their careers.
Yes.
Okay, job creation is a huge problem in India. I don't have to mention it, but it's there. It's very prevalent. So, do you think like changing jobs in between, ekdam se changing jobs is more like a, it's more like a privilege rather than an option nowadays? What are your views on that?
People are, in the initial stages you would find is there is a little trend. People don't stick to particular job for a longer period of time. There are people you would see 1 साल 1.5 साल 1 साल 1.5 साल में नौकरी छोड़ा,
कि जितना
शिफ्ट
एक्सपीरियंस आ
चेंज
जाए
कर
उतना
रहे हैं।
अच्छा सीवी बनेगा।
लेकिन देर आर पीपल, अच्छी जॉब मिल गई है, खुश हैं, लाइफ कंफर्टेबल है, दे नॉट टू मच ईगर अबाउट जंपिंग, टू मच ईगर ऑफ शूटिंग अप देयर सैलरीज टू फास्ट। वो 10-10 15-15 साल भी कंटिन्यू कर रहे होते हैं जॉब के ऊपर। सो एज आई सेड, स्टाइल, what is your style of working? People who need changes very quick, they would be the people who would make jobs very, they'll keep changing the jobs quickly. तो वो टोटली पर्सन टू पर्सन हो जाता है इन अ वे, बिकॉज वो दे थिंक पीपल विल चेंजिंग इट फास्टर, दे थिंक कि हर 1 साल में मेरे अगर पैसा बढ़ रहा है तो 4 साल में, 5 साल में, 6 साल में मैं बहुत ही अच्छी पोजीशन पे खड़ा हो जाऊंगा। बट देयर विल बी इंटरव्यूअर समटाइम्स फील यू आर नॉट स्टेबल। So you need to be very consciously taking a decision. It cannot be one rule applicable to everyone.
And this trend of changing jobs faster, I feel like it's in my and the previous generation, and being stable in their jobs is like my mom and dad's generation thing, what I've noticed, honestly.
उस
My
टाइम
dad has been working
पर
in the
ये
same company
समझाया
for the
जाता था
past.
कि गवर्नमेंट सॉरी माय बैड,
No, no.
गवर्नमेंट
That's,
जॉब्स है, आपको एक बार लग गई है तो आपको आपकी जब तक आपने रिटायरमेंट नहीं होना तब तक चलना है। वो पैटर्न वहां से आ रहा है।
that's true. And I mean, they were correct at it. Government jobs are very stable. There's job security, there's pension. Why not wouldn't you want to stay in it, you know?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's fine. But in today's world, wherein government jobs में भी security नहीं है, तो क्या फायदा? So it's better to change job if it suits you. Obviously, definitely.
Yeah.
So, as we're talking about optimization of time from a younger age, so can you give some techniques जो study habits ही work environment में काम आ जाए जैसे any technique that I can apply during my college years, especially for my studies, that can be also applied in a corporate for my work for the college
So
students.
as I already mentioned, you create the blocks in your day, while you're doing your time management, and set the goal for the day. So, driving back my intention to accomplish that goal, I plot my activities accordingly. This is what I do, and slot them as per the time convenient to me. So, what happens is, as I this we have already as such we covered. So, you'll have to really apply those pieces in place. Uh, Give a very absolutely brilliant time period for your work. It would take that much of a time. Don't take a higher or a lesser time period not to have anxiety and not to have the procrastination. So while studying also, a lot of time management portfolios can be taken care of. uh, some people make a kind of a list कि आज के दिन में मुझे to do ये करना है. Some people create those quadrants, as I said, कि ये बेकार के काम है, सोशल मीडियाज पे जाना बार बार, इनको पोर्शन को तो कर दो डिलीट क्योंकि मेरा क्रूशल टाइम है. ये पोर्शंस मुझे नहीं लगता मुझे करना चाहिए. जैसे स्टडी के टाइम पर आपको लगता है कि आपको ये फाइलें बनाने में टाइम लगेगा, somebody कैन हेल्प यू विद, डेलीगेट इट टू समबडी कि यार ये फाइलों के कलर कवरिंग, जैसे माय डॉटर इज गिविंग बोर्ड्स, तो मम्मा ये प्रैक्टिकल के लिए जो फाइलें हैं मैं लिखनी मुझे है क्योंकि मेरे को समझना भी है, याद करना है, एंड पॉसिबली माय हैंड राइटिंग विल बी टेकन केयर ऑफ. बट ये जो कवरिंग शीट्स हैं या उनका जो डिजाइनिंग करनी है, ये मेरा टाइम ले लेगा. सो कैन यू हेल्प मी विद, एंड इमीडिएटली इट जस्ट डेलीगेटेड दैट वर्क टू मी. सो आई डिड दैट, एंड शी प्रायोरिटाइज्ड हर इंपॉर्टेंट पीसेस जो अर्जेंट ना हो जाए वो पहले कर लेती हूँ. So something like that. So create your quadrant accordingly. It helps in all the kinds of profiles you have.
I feel like the one rule that you mentioned, 80-20, it can be applied everywhere. Be it
Everywhere.
a person who's working or not working, a student or a professional, it can be applied everywhere.
Absolutely.
So it's time to get a little bit personal. Okay, I'm gonna ask you your secret. What is Miss Davinder's secret? How does she manage her time best? Because I feel like इतना मुझे पता ही नहीं था time management के बारे में after this 20-30 minute of conversation. So what is your secret about it?
So I do the blocking and the activities within that 2-3 hour kind of a blocking. So I before lunch, before after lunch period, evening slot, morning slot, what all I need to cover up, I do that way. And there's a very cute secret of everyone which can followed. The earliest 1 hour of first thing in the morning, 5 to 6, I call it a magic hour, because that particular hour gives me the clarity of mind. It sets my intention in place. And I know in that hour, I start with a lot of good activities around, which then can define my day. So, gratitudes, uh, connectivity with my soul, those are very, very important pieces that helps me define my day, keeps me calm, keeps my energy is composed. And then I sit down and say, okay, what is it I need to do? And accordingly, then I start up my day accordingly. If there are some emergencies, I'm able to handle because of that calm and composed an hour in the morning. So that is the secret.
I feel like we need to do a separate episode of the secret of the magic hour. I'd be definitely doing that. Definitely. So thank you so much for your wonderful insights for such a cliche topic. Is there anything you would like to add for our listeners?
I'm really happy that new generations like you are already concerned about these factors, which we realized pretty late in our ages. And we carried on whatever came our way. It took us time to understand. But I'm so happy that if you're already knowing it, awareness is the half battle won. And I'm sure you guys are going to be damn successful in future.
Thank you so much. And that means a lot coming from a person like you. So, with this, we come to the end of this episode. If you, our dear listeners, would like to talk us about a certain topic, or if you would like Ms. Davinder to answer some specific questions, please DM them to us on our official Instagram or LinkedIn pages at the rate Anon Global Foundation, and we would love to take them up in our upcoming episodes. Our podcasts are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms. So don't forget to tune in for the next episode and see you guys next time. Bye bye.